Welcome back to the Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Ball. Today our topic is tax credits and incentives for powering your business. Please welcome my guest, David McMillian. He's president of McMillian and Associates. He's joined us here in Studio One. David, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael.
Well, we appreciate you being back. I mean, last time I had you on the show, we got some great information for business owners and real estate people. And before we get started, I know 99% of my listeners and viewers are going to know this, but every time I read about tax credits, it seems like there's an indication that maybe people aren't that familiar with how great tax credits are compared to tax deductions. What's the brief difference?
Yeah, absolutely. A deduction just lowers the amount of money you're taxed on, and a tax credit is actually a reduction dollar for dollar on what you owe to the government. So essentially, every dollar of tax credit is another dollar back in your pocket.
Yeah. I remember when I was 16, I thought a deduction was a tax credit. And when I found out, no, it's just you're not taxed on that amount of income, I'm like, well, that's not good. I like the idea of tax credits. Right?
I hear this all the time. I was talking to a manufacturer yesterday, and they said, oh, yeah, we're getting some tax stuff. We're claiming those credits, and it turns out they're just getting a deduction, not getting any credits.
Oh, yeah.
Typical response.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what are kind of the main areas or basic types of tax credits that people should think about that run businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three things that we see across the country. So first type of tax credit or incentive is all around negotiated tax credits. And this is usually where new companies are expanding or existing companies have a big project going on, and there are some things that you can negotiate with the government because of your expansion and the revenue that's going to bring in. The next big bucket, which is where we typically focus on, are what I call business activity credits or earned tax credits, where your business hires somebody, they add jobs, they do some R&D, they do some learning, and that triggers a tax credit. And then there's also tax credits that people can buy and invest in. You know, a great example, we're here in Georgia, but a lot of states have this for tax credits for movies. Right. You can invest into a movie project, and it's more on a owner individual basis, but that's the third type of incentive, things that you can buy or invest in.
Right, and I've invested myself in those types of tax credits, and they've seemed to work out well. Well, let's talk about, first of all, those negotiated tax credits. So those are basically geography based, right? You've got to look for the right zones.
That's right. Yeah, one of the big ways that the government encourages economic development is by targeting specific areas to improve those areas. So you see this really all over the country. They're called different things. They may be called enterprise zones, empowerment zones. Georgia has opportunity zones, but they're little pockets targeted for economic development really all over the country, and they're big dollars. We see this here in Atlanta. One of the big stories right now is NCR is building their world headquarters, and they're in the middle of a nightclub and Georgia Tech's campus on one side of the street that just happens to be in one of these zones, and they'll probably get millions of dollars for moving to that little specific part.
That's great. Now, if my listener's in Maine, or maybe he's in Los Angeles, or he's in wherever he is in Iowa, how can he find out, if you run a business, how can you find out where to find these?
Absolutely. Great question. It may be a little hard, but the two places I would have you start. First is go to your state's Department of Revenue website. Not great for finding out how to get those tax credits and the details of them, but it's a great list that you can find every incentive that state has to offer. But I say the best place to look is your state's economic development agency. Every state has some type of economic development, business improvement agency, and that has a good listing and summary of the types of incentives that are available for that particular state.
Okay. And then negotiated tax credits, David, you talked about, or maybe they're for hiring or moving my business or expanding my business in a certain location. That's not just for big businesses, right?
That's right. These tax credits, they're in the law, so it applies to everybody as long as you meet those requirements. And in some cases, some of these zones, you only have to create 2 new jobs. So while NCR may be adding thousands of jobs, you're a small business, you can add 3 or 4 jobs and still qualify for some of these tax credits.
Right. Now let's talk about a few of those tax credits that are available maybe in these zones or maybe in all areas. So what about, first of all, for hiring credits?
Yeah, so the big tax credit there is a federal program, so this applies to every state, called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. and essentially gives businesses an incentive to hire certain types of people and get them back in the workforce. One of the big categories of this is veterans. Hiring veterans who have been unemployed a short term, long period of time, people who are disabled or unemployed, that triggers a big tax credit worth several $1,000s per person. Another big category is hiring somebody that's been on food stamps or government assistance programs, food stamps, long-term welfare. And again, the government is trying to get people back in the workforce off of these programs. But there are, from our research, there's over 70 million people in the country today that trigger this one tax credit.
And this is all federal.
It's all federal. And then many states have what we call piggyback tax credits. So you hire somebody who's on food stamps in South Carolina and they're on South Carolina's welfare program, there's another tax credit you can get.
And where might you find these?
Again, Department of
Same
Revenue.
place. Okay.
There's not one great place to look. The government doesn't make this easy,
Right.
shocker,
Right.
to find this or to document it. But the two places to really look into this, Department of Revenue's website for your state and Economic Development Agency.
Okay. And what about training?
Yeah, so one of the ways that the government tries to encourage certain types of activities is having a better skilled workforce. So many states have an incentive for learning different types of things. Georgia has a really great incentive that's available for every type of business for learning software technology, but states like California and South Carolina and even New York have some incentives for certain types of businesses. Most states have, they call a set of favored industries. So manufacturers, warehouse and distribution, R&D, telecom, sometimes the tourism business. Those are usually the industries that these tax credits most often apply to. But again, if you go to your state's Department of Revenue website or the Economic Development Agency, training and learning and having a better skilled workforce is usually at the top of the list for what states try to encourage.
Right. And that's the reason they have these tax credits, right, is to encourage businesses to move and expand in their markets. So which states are doing a good job of that?
Absolutely. What we find is states that are most business friendly tend to have the most incentives, and that's where you also see the most business growth. So here in the Southeast does an incredible job of encouraging businesses to locate. The Area Development Magazine just ranked Georgia the #1 place to do business in the country for the 3rd or 4th year in a row. So I'd say
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. So I put Georgia at the top of the list. Nevada actually does a really good job. Elon Musk and Tesla just have started working on a $1 billion battery cell plant in Nevada. And he said a big part of that was the incentives that Nevada was offering. So I'd say, a lot of states in the Southeast and kind of the Midwest, Nevada, Colorado, Oklahoma, do a really great job of giving businesses a chance to grow in their state.
Yeah. And you mentioned Tesla. So are there also some tax credits for alternative fuel
Yeah,
vehicles?
absolutely. Using that fuel to power your business, there are incentives. There's even deductions for, if you're not taking advantage of these, go talk to your power company. But if you're using energy efficient lighting, different water sources, solar power.
And these are credits, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's credits, and then there may be additional deductions that whoever your vendor is supplying you with the alternative energy can help you take advantage of too.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point because I think there's a lot of real estate owners are not taking advantage of like LED lighting.
That's right.
And there's companies where you can actually finance the cost of that. They'll actually do the work to change them out, and you get some tax credits.
That's right.
Or at least the deductions and the savings.
Yeah.
Because I asked one owner of a lot of properties why he wasn't doing it. He said, "Well, we're just so busy and we're thin. We don't have the people." Well, actually, there's companies that'll do the whole thing for you. So you do want to check it out, take advantage of the tax credits. Well, stay tuned. We'll have more tax credits to power your business. Stay with us. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Hey there, thanks for checking out the Commercial Real Estate Show. Don't miss a video of special interest to you. Be sure to subscribe below. And if you appreciate the videos, be sure and thank our sponsors. There's a link to more information about them in the description. For more videos, podcasts, and articles, check out creshow.com.